So welcome, Lance. This is your time in the spotlight. I'm so happy to have you here and to be able to have some time with you to get to know you a little bit better, to know a little bit more about your career and what you do here at Elantis. So welcome.
Thanks, Andrea. Been looking forward to this moment.
Great. So how about we start with just that? What is your current role at Elantis? What do you do here?
I'm presently a solutions specialist here at Elantis. I work on varying projects, doing things from BA roles to coding to design analysis. I put on whatever hat I am given to get the job done.
Awesome. So lots of variety in your role, I bet. So what started you on this path? You've been in the IT industry for a few years, I imagine. How did it all start? Did you initially have an interest in IT?
You can jump in the Sherman Wayback Machine. So it all started in 2001 when I was working at Sobeys. There was a lunch and learn. I got to spend a half an hour. Basically, my boss said, you wear that hat, you're going to put the SharePoint hat on. I went into a meeting, learned about SharePoint 2001, and then basically I became the expert there. Helped them migrate from SharePoint 2001 to 2003. Built a number of systems. We upgraded later to 2007, and when Sobeys acquired Safeway, we also amalgamated their SharePoint systems with ours, as well as Thrifty Foods. So again, same related business, but SharePoint, and it filled the needs nicely there.
That's great. So then how did you get from that role into what you're doing today?
Again, so I, helped Safeway migrate to Sobeys, and using my experience there, obviously when the acquisitions were there, they needed to kind of downsize and do the remerger thing. I went to Initech College to learn more about SharePoint because I knew that was my calling. Took a course there. It's about a year-long course. Graduated the course with 100%. I think I'm the only student there that actually did graduate. I know a number of students that also graduated from there. And at that time, I know Dave Elantis showed up and did a presentation there and was looking for recruiting students. And I had been trying to get into Elantis for about 3 years, and here I am.
Oh, that's such a cool story. I did not know that was what brought you here. That's fantastic.
Yeah, this is the place to be if you want to do SharePoint.
Yes, for sure. And, to your point of what you said, this is your calling, SharePoint's your calling. Getting 100% on that exam is obviously testament to that.
Nobody can know it all. And that's the beauty of our team here is we have a number of members that, know their certain areas of SharePoint better. And we collaborate and get the job done.
Yeah. So, you mentioned nobody can know it all. There's a lot of variety in your role. What would you say is kind of your favorite thing in what you do in your day-to-day?
I don't want to say repeatability, but having methodology, and that's kind of our strength in doing migrations and etc. We have a proven process that we implement and use, and again, not straying too far from that path. That's our recipe for success, and I'm happy to contribute to that and the projects that I do work on, and getting that extra knowledge in the areas that I don't know. So every new project is a brand new adventure.
So I'm curious, prior to even your days with Sobeys, were you always in IT? Did you have a different career prior to that, or has IT in the space?
I'm a child of the '80s, so I grew up when computers first came out. So I would say in grade 7, and when I was loading BASIC from paper tape into an IMSA 8080, I kind of found my calling. And then, of course, when grade 9 rolled around and they did guidance counseling, and, it's pretty sad when the guidance counselor has to ask you to set up the computer. And then when you take the test and they say what your vocation is, and it says computers, well. And then ultimately, I ran a few bulletin board systems in the back in the day, so I've always been kind of nerdy for computers. I actually managed a couple of local computer stores, sold some vintage Commodore hardware back in the days. So it's always been my calling. And when I got to high school, basically instructors put me to work as being a faculty assistant. Walked in did a typing course, and it was up to 75 words a minute. And then when they took me in to do it on electronic keyboards, it was kind of like, yeah, we know you know how to type, so. By the way, go learn this language, COMAL, and teach it to the class at the end of the year. So that's kind of where it went.
Oh, that's so neat. That's really cool. So what would you say, looking back, is your proudest moment of your career so far?
The highlight of my career was at Sobeys Safeway, and I was actually recognized there. for passion, integrity, and again, putting the customer first. I love that and about our motto as, always putting yourself in the position of the client and giving a solution that, that you would use, basically. But I had overheard a conversation from the Gatehouse security people that, they were using Excel spreadsheets to track vehicles coming in and out of the warehouse for groceries deliveries. And, sometimes their process would take up to 15 minutes. Well, overhearing that and building a system in SharePoint, I got it down to well under 2 minutes to get the truckers in and out. So that was a big win for them. And I know that system was used heavily. Plus systems I implemented there were tied directly to retail. A lot of the projects that I'm working on now are kind of similar, but more tailored for other industries. So you take what you know and you apply it where it's needed, and again, I'm all about try to get it done in 1 clicks or 2 clicks for the user, again, put yourself in their shoes, how they're going to use the end product.
Yeah, and I really hear through your answer there that connection with our core values is something that guides your work, and it's the best solution for the customer as well. So that's fantastic. What would you say you wake up most looking forward to every day here?
Every day is a brand new adventure. You think you're going to do one thing, but you're going to probably do some other things in between. So it's never boring. You are always challenged, and I like being challenged.
Yeah, isn't that variety it's the spice of life, they say,
exactly.
Right? So
you take
that's so great.
As a consultant, they say, how do you get that thing done in 30 minutes? It's because, you've got 30 years of experience. So, and again, when the new people come in, eager to always lend a hand and hand off skills and knowledge and, the stories. Tribal knowledge is important.
Definitely appreciate your contributions and sharing your experience with the team for sure, Lance. Now, what would you say might be a challenge or some of the challenges that you faced through your career, and what stands out for you? How did you overcome those challenges?
Again, not knowing the thing. Not knowing the thing can be your enemy. So sitting down and putting your nose to the grindstone, learning how something works. So any new technology, it's always changing and evolving, and trying to keep abreast of that is always key.
Yeah. So how do you stay on top of everything that's changing? What are your go-to resources?
SharePoint Thursdays is pretty much a standard in the industry, where you sit down and watch a bunch of YouTube videos, Power Apps, keep abreast of the latest conference news that are coming out, SharePoint conferences, etc.
Yeah, well, that's great that you've made it even into a weekly routine, and it's part of your schedule, right? That you
always
make
be
time
learning
for it.
Always be learning.
Absolutely. So, you've been in this game for a while now. What would you say would be your top piece of advice to someone who's just starting out in IT?
Starting out in IT, pick up a piece of technology that you like, that you're passionate about. So for me, it was SharePoint. Maybe you're into Figma, you're into design. You want to do prototyping or Power Apps. There's so many things in SharePoint. You can be doing Power Apps, forms, even Nintex workflow. And again, it's all relatable. So I've worked with a lot of people that, again, through the in a tech college that had no prior IT experience. But again, understanding the fundamentals, how computers work, input, processing, and outputs, and CRUD operations. These, master these things, and you'll be successful in any project you do. Plus, understanding, again, user requirements.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. Love that. So I've got one more fun question here for you is, who would you say is your modern day hero?
That's pretty simple. Jim Lovell would be my hero from Apollo 13 and Gemini. He's traveled to the moon twice. He never gave up, even though he didn't make it. My philosophy is all things are possible. Enough time, code, money, and or beer, and failure is not an option. So that comes from Gene Kranz and directly from Apollo 13, one of my favorite missions. And I actually got a chance to email Jim Lovell once and send him my appreciation. At the time, he was orbiting around the moon. My brother was born that Christmas Eve, so I relayed that story to him, and he replied, it's always amazing how the stories inspire. But they always say never meet your heroes. But I got to say, I work with a few here at Elantis that I consider mentors, and I enjoy learning from them.
That's so sweet, and I'm sure the team appreciates all of your contributions as well, and your mentorship too. So, one final question for you, Lance: what is next for you in your career? Where's this path going to take you?
It's interesting, I don't have a 5-year plan. A fellow should. I would say, again, I'm at that age where it's time to instill the knowledge that I know in other people and pass on what I learned. So, working together in a team environment is definitely my future, I think.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time today, Lance, and for sharing a bit about your career path, what brought you here, what's next for you, and thank you again for everything you do at Elantis, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Andrea.